How's Rachel? Rachel, where's Rachel?
Rachel's with Batman. Hey, everyone. Welcome to This Podcast Needs a Title. I'm still Erica Davis.
And I'm, I guess, still Peter Malone Elliott. It's up for debate, though.
Okay.
And this is real talk about writing, publishing, and everything in between. Our guest today is Melissa Duge Spiers, an author and screenwriter whose memoir, The Glory Hole, was the nonfiction grand prize winner of the 2021 Book Pipeline Unpublished competition. But first, Erica. Erica's very excited. How are you doing?
Once again, kind of excited to talk to Melissa.
Yeah. This is gonna be a good one.
I remember reading The Glory Hole. That's WHOLE. And I'm like, I can't put this down. I would not pick it out of a lineup. Like if I knew what the subject matter was, if I knew what the title, the title caught my interest.
Yeah.
The title grabbed me immediately.
The title is definitely a, hey, look at me title.
And knowing it's nonfiction. The two do not compute, which means it very much computes. I'm excited. I'm glad you're better. I don't want you to tell everybody what happened the last couple of days.
Well, first and foremost, yes, I am excited to have Melissa too. The memoir, the story that her memoir is based on, her life story it's a very, very unique one, to put it lightly. And she's going to tell us more about it. It's going to be fantastic. But yes, I had food poisoning. You know, a lot of liquids coming out of various holes. For 16 hours.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a 28 fluid ounce Glacier Freeze blue Gatorade to replenish your fluids.
He's replenishing his fluids. There it is.
No way. I'm really going to hone in and dig it down on this. I think I should be in a Gatorade commercial. I've done nothing to earn it, but I think I should be.
Hey, Gatorade, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
We got Peter Malone Elliott waiting on the wings.
I'm ready
for you to snatch him up and make him the superstar he was meant to be. He's one of the top 2 co-hosts of this podcast.
Oh.
I was going to ask you.
But I'm bum.
Aside from the illness, how you doing?
I'm good. Today is Wednesday, July 6th. I am flying to Vancouver on July 8th to go to the Leo Awards ceremony. The thing that I'm nominated for. So that'll be fun. I'm going to wear a tux.
What project? Film with the mouth thing. I couldn't remember what it was called. Wired Shut.
Wow.
Wired
The film
Shut.
with the mouth thing. Yeah. So I'm flying to Vancouver on July 8th for the Leo Awards. I am nominated for Best Screenwriting Motion Picture in the Leo Awards. And the film that I did, Wired Shut, is nominated for a couple of other awards too. So I'm going to be wearing a tux and going to the awards gala and the ceremony and all that jazz and drinking champagne and whatnot.
Tell people about the jacket.
Oh, it's my granddad's vintage white dinner jacket from the 40s or 50s.
Great way to honor him.
Yeah. On July 11th, I will be flying from Vancouver to Yosemite and doing my week-long Yosemite vacation, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Woo woo.
How are you, Erica?
I was just excited about Melissa.
Yeah.
I'm so much better than last time. I still have some pockets of really sleepiness and I have to take a nap and I hate naps.
So are you going to be like Captain Narcolepsy during this interview? Just like
possibly also because I just had a gluten-free bagel and I haven't had a bagel in like 8 years. But I needed something in my stomach to take ibuprofen because I'm an old. So,
well, I mean, even if you're young, you should take ibuprofen on a full stomach. I mean, that's just good sense. So, are there any writing updates for you?
Yeah. And I'm not at liberty to discuss. So off record.
Back on the record, fingers and toes crossed for Erica's exciting thing.
Speaking of, can you tell me about Melissa and her book, The Glory Hole?
Sure. Melissa Duge Spiers is an award-winning memoirist, screenwriter, and essayist based in Silicon Valley, California. Her upcoming memoir, The Glory Hole, won the 2021 Book Pipeline Unpublished Manuscript Competition, and her first feature screenplay, Brave Woman, garnered awards and placement in Sundance, Austin Film Festival, Final Draft Big Break, the Athena Film Festival LA Lab, CineQuest, Cinosure, and others. Melissa also writes for magazines and blogs, with work appearing in the Huffington Post, Metropolitan Palm Beach and New York magazines, Forbes.com, The Wall Street Journal Online, MSN Magazine, Bitch Magazine, SF Gate, and the upcoming anthology Take the Fruit, Flood the Desert. A graduate of Barnard College, Columbia University, and Andrews Academy, Melissa is represented by Danny Siegelbaum at the Carol Mann Agency.
Let's bring her in here.
Woo, Melissa.
Yay.
Hello, Melissa. Thanks so much for joining us.
There it is.
Thank you for having me.
I think the last time we saw each other, virtually face to face, Melissa, was when we had the mixer, like Erica was saying, post winter. Then that would have been what, December, January?
Yeah.
January
I think.
feels right.
Yeah. So about 6-7 months ago. Nothing has happened in the world since then.
Oh, for God's
right.
sake.
Dull, boring.
But we're so happy to have you on. And, you're one of my favorite writers I've read in a long time that's come through the Unpublished contest. For our listeners, can you just tell us a little bit how you got into writing in the first place?
Well, I've kind of always been a writer. It's just something that I gravitated toward as a teeny kid, which is really interesting because when we get into talking about my book, we did not have many books in our house because almost all of them were sinful. I don't know how nobody knows how I learned to read. I just started reading at about 2 and I am a reader and a writer. And I wrote a really nasty poem about my 3rd grade teacher and she found it. Instead of punishing me, she said, "You're a good writer. And I want you to do a speech at the end of the year and I want you to write it." And that kind of just, I know. Kudos to Mrs. Collins. Well, okay, this is my thing. And the nasty tone has stayed with me too, I think.
It just seems like that's pretty pure for you. And that's just authentic. And I remember getting a chance to read The Glory Hole and that authenticity, it screams off the page. As I recall, very excitingly, you won the 2021 unpublished nonfiction category for your insanely compelling memoir proposal, The Glory Hole. Could you give us your version of the nutshell of it all?
Yeah. So the Seventh-day Adventist Church was one of the Protestant churches that grew up at the same time as the Mormons in the 1840s, when everybody thought the world was going to end in 1844 or whatever. And all these freak religions grew up around prophets and most of them died out. But the Adventists and the Mormons had these very strong, charismatic prophets. Right. And the Adventists had this woman named Ellen G. White who got hit in the head by a rock when she was 9 and had obviously traumatic brain injury. And so she saw visions of God for the rest of her life. They built this whole religion around it. And she wrote all these books and all these manuals. And so you live by Ellen White, you die by Ellen White in the Adventist Church. And so it is actually bigger than the Mormons at this point. It is about 27 million, somewhere between 22 and 27 million worldwide members.
Wow.
But only about 1 million of those are in the United States. So nobody in the United States really knows about them. Yeah. Bullshit that they do. So that's how they've gotten their big worldwide presence. So yeah, they are, like you were saying, they're a very closed society. One of my friends had said, you can go from cradle to grave in the Adventist system and never go outside of it. And it's really true. They have all their own schools, they have their own medical school, they have their own hospitals. They're really big into healthcare. So it's super fundamentalist Christian. Every word of the Bible is true. And then you've got Ellen White layered on top of that with all of her instructions. And so it's incredibly controlling. It is a cult. They would die before they admit it, but it's true. And, so there's no dancing, no drinking, no jewelry, no premarital sex, no rock and roll, no going bowling, no movies, no TV, no makeup for women, no caffeine. No meat, just everything. Every little bit of your life is controlled. So that was, I'm a 4th generation in that system on both sides of the family, pretty much. And then we had, growing up, on top of that, a layer of control just within our family dynamics. My family was on the very conservative end of the Adventist spectrum anyway. My dad was a pastor. He was also a doctor, but he was a pastor. Then we had this weird layer in the family of female bodily control where we were only to be beautiful. I was raised with absolutely no control of my body or of anything. The boundaries, of course, in any religion are really not respected or encouraged.
Correct.
Because, in our family and the Adventist Church, absolutely not. What the church and the school didn't control our family, like I couldn't keep a diary. I never did. For a writer, that's weird. Wow. But I tried and it was read. It would move around my room. We weren't allowed to lock our doors. And my mother would literally physically control our bodies. My sister was taken out of school so that she would lose weight. because she had to be beautiful.
God.
And she was not, she didn't need to lose weight. My mother thought straight hair was ugly. So we were literally dragged out from underneath the bed or out of the closet and forced to have permanence. So there was this level of control that was all about the female body, sort of, in the church and in our family. Sex, of course, was a huge part of that. The Adventist Church actually endorses, or did in the manuals that we were given in high school in the 80s, female circumcision to prevent masturbation.
Wow.
Raised in that, ran screaming the moment I graduated from high school, and from Adventist high school, of course. So the book is about that, and thinking that when I ran away, that I had escaped, and realizing much later as an adult, I found out that some of my family members who had held church positions had been child molesters in their church positions, one of whom I'm very close to. So that kind of brought it to a head for me, that I still had unresolved issues, and what the hell was all of this? Yeah. So then the next decade plus was trying to unpack all of that. I tracked down and actually befriended one of the victims of this. She kind of helped me turn my focus onto the church and where I still had unresolved issues. Like running away did not heal anything. The book goes into the whole subject through the lens of sex, which is something that's so important right now, which is why I'm just trying so hard to finish it, because the control of women's bodies right now is really a hot button issue.
Yeah. Yep. Very, very topical, unfortunately.
So I enter the book through the sexual lens because, of course, for me, I guess sex and my body and women's bodies in general were a metaphor that I was exploring all of this through, because like when I escaped, I didn't have time to catch up on all the worldly things. Like I couldn't tell you who was on Sesame Street. I never saw Charlie's Angels. Right. I don't know any song lyrics for anything. So I had to kind of focus my catch up. Drugs, I tried them and I just couldn't do that. So basically it was sex. I could get good at that, and I could go way crazy on that. And drinking. I could handle drinking. And so, like I still can't cook meat. I don't know how to cook meat. And I just I can't be bothered to try to learn it, So the book kind of goes into it all from the sexual element, and it's a metaphor, but unfortunately through a lot of my life, I didn't realize that. So I was going through it literally, which was not a really good plan.
Right.
And there you go. Super long. You're going to have to edit that completely.
I'm not going to be editing much of that. That's not only was that compelling and concise, it was just, people need to hear it.
Something that always amazed me reading it is that because it is an expose. I mean, it has that, right? I mean, that's part of it, but it is also this beautiful coming of age journey for you. And that's a lot of memoirs don't really they're not able to do both well. and you really did in the proposal that I read. I can't wait to read the full manuscript. I'm very, very excited for it to come out.
Nicely said.
You will be one of the first.
Yay. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I mean, it takes a lot of bravery to talk about it, and you're very articulate about it. If there are other authors listening out there who are attempting to approach this type of a sensitive topic, do you have any advice for them about approaching that type of material?
I have had people ask. I've had Adventists, DM me and be like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about writing about blah, blah, blah." I do have two, before you start ideas. First of all, therapy. I didn't start therapy until I started writing it. And so I'm kind of playing catch up in terms of every week I see my material differently. And it's chapters that I thought were totally put to bed long ago. I'm like, oh my God. In fact, preparing for this interview, there was oh, wow, thought. I would say, definitely do your therapy before you write and also consider a pen name. I did not do that. I have built my entire writing career. My name is out there now. It kind of all became very real with that Huffington Post article, which we will probably talk about later.
Right. Yeah.
And I think you can always go back to your real name if that's what you choose to do. But once you're down that path, you cannot go with a pen name. So if you feel like your privacy is needed, definitely start there. but I tend to kind of trick myself, which I think is a trauma response from having been raised where everything was controlled. Right. Like I set all the balls in motion without really thinking about it first. Like I did with Book Pipeline. I really did. You know, I entered that not intending to actually keep writing my memoir. And then now I'm right. And, you know, so I kind of like forced myself to do it. I don't recommend that path. Give it some thought and then fucking do it.
I like that.
I love that.
You should put it on a mug. Matt, did you hear that?
Just fucking do it.
Give it some thought, then fucking do it. Even I can say that.
Yeah. Hey, you cursed. I think that's the first time you've cursed in a while.
In a while, sure.
To that end, I mean, not a lot of people have read your proposal and your full manuscript, obviously, but for the few people that have, is something when I was sending out the proposal that I kind of got. I don't know if I've told you this or not. Some of the responses I got were like, "Is how much of this is true? Is this really true? Is that like it's like of course it's true. What? So I'm to that end. Like, have you been surprised by any reactions that you've gotten to the writing?
I guess no one would be saying that to my face.
No.
Well, geez, if I had made it up, you'd think I would have done something a little different.
Oh my God.
I certainly not chosen to do this.
I know. I think it's one of those things. It's just it's hard for people to wrap their heads around. So like it's easier for them to just assume like, well, it has to be part fictional, right? It's no one could be this awful.
I can say I remember reading it, double checking that I was looking in the nonfiction because the voice was so placid and compelling compared to the content. It wasn't the content. Which is this traumatic, abusive, toxic stuff, was treated with such
wit,
respect, dignity. And it didn't, for a split second, it didn't match. Like the only way it would have been sense to me is as a nonfiction is if the writer was like really well adjusted. And I'm like, oh, and now I meet you. I'm like, yeah, you can cope. And that can come out in however we want it to. But like, now it makes sense to me now that it confused me for a half a second, not enough to make me stop reading.
I have gotten a little bit of, when I first started working on it a long time ago and it got pitched around to some publishers, they all said, you know, love the writing, but misery memoirs are not selling right now. And that really shocked me because I think of it as a Black comedy, but I guess that is some people's response, which I really hope, is not the takeaway. But a lot of people, the first response obviously is never heard of Seventh-day Adventists. Holy smoke. The Adventists tend to have these like epicenters. They're scattered everywhere, big epicenters. Right. And so most of my growing up was in Berrien Springs, Michigan. And then there have been some in that initial round of pitching it, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was, there were some people who were just like way too graphic. One person was really mad at my agent at the time that she had to see this because it was way too graphic. But, everybody's experience is different. Who knows what her experience in life was. So
going back to what we were talking about before, I mean, the like you said, it is a Black comedy, and it's interesting that you describe it as that because even though it is very dark and heavy, I was laughing the entire time I was reading the proposal, which was weird given how heavy the material is, and it's really hard to write dark comedy. I think dark comedy is honestly the hardest thing to do as a writer, and that sharp, subversive wit in your voice is something that most people try for their entire careers to have, and you have it already. I have to imagine that this was developed in all of the essays and stuff that you've had published. You mentioned the Huffington Post essay that had been published before. Is that something that you've learned a lot from to help build the manuscript?
I was kind of stumped by that question because I tend to kind of think that my sense of humor comes from my life and not my writing. I've never had, in all of my essay writing and stuff, never had much editorial feedback at all. Really, it has been just totally, no personality, whatever, just expository stuff, writing about whatever, snow skating or something.
Sure.
But I think the stuff, obviously writing classes, teachers and stuff have really kind of honed that. It's not something I've ever worked on. I think the only thing that I've ever worked on, and it's in life and in writing, is not to be too mean. My sense of humor to me is cracks myself up, because I just love there's Black comedy in just about everything. I've been lucky enough to have, family and friends who've really called me on it through my life and been like, you know what? You may think you're being funny, but that fucking hurts. And I don't know where it comes from.
That just speaks to how good of a writer you are, that it's just kind of just in you already.
It reminds me of like a bottom up approach. You're not adding in the layer of humor after you've written the content. It's permeated with voice. To your point, Melissa, one of the favorite things I've written in a script that I attempted was one moment of a scene, like a third of a page scene that made me laugh out loud. And it got the best reaction from my screenwriting group. And it was the stupidest visual gag that was absolutely on point for this dysfunctional family I was writing about. But like, I'm like, okay, I got to chase that dragon. Like, I just want to, if I make myself laugh, I'm good to go. Cause I'm a hard audience. And
there you go.
But it's like in the middle of this, like these horrible circumstances. And I won't bore anyone with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think VHS. Often you have to start with the humor, right? That you start with the humor of it and then you describe and build around it because I mean, the absurdity of life is just it. Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, if you don't laugh, you cry.
Right. I mean, I think I asked you this when we did a version of this, when we did the written interview on the Book Pipeline website, but are you able to kind of like detach yourself almost from and read the things that you've written? It's like, oh my God, if this happened to a friend of mine, I would be horrified and this is awful. But are you able to detach, be like, this is so hilarious. It's awful.
A little bit. I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about my writing process. Except that I do know when I'm on, and you know when there's that on
flow state
point, that's when I can step out and be like, nailed it.
What is it that you know? What is it do you feel something? Do you hear it? Taste it?
I hear it. The language is just like, that's it right there. And it is almost always a point of humor or not necessarily humor, but not dichotomy, absurdity,
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
I think that's where I get mired down is in all of the emotional stuff and all of the description of the church and all that stuff, which just doesn't interest me. And I don't want to go back into that mindset. And so that's kind of flagging.
You heard it here first. If you're bored writing it, they will be bored reading it. And that is completely true. When I was reading Melissa's book, I just turned on my foot massager. Hold on.
You have a foot. Wait, hold on.
I have a foot massager. It's homedic.
You're doing a foot massage.
Oh, no, it's off. It's like a footrest right now. You're not the only one with plantar fasciitis, Peter.
I tore my plantar fascia. Thank you very much. No. I ruptured my plantar fascia, not plantar fasciitis. Yeah. Yeah, Erica. Yeah. Yeah, no, it wasn't fun.
I'm not trying to
I don't think this is an aside and won't go in, but like, I don't think
will it?
Fuck you.
Well, everybody, we're back from commercial break and Peter is on fire.
Anyway, it really chaps my ass.
Melissa, I'd like to circle back. I heard you mention a few minutes ago that you've had a literary agent in the past, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners who have either like never had an agent before, are querying agents for the first time, or have just signed with someone, or may have to be deciding to leave an agent. Any input on parting ways with an agent? And also, how's it been since you signed with Danny?
This is one of my favorite topics because you guys were so instrumental in this, and I just love Danny so much.
She's great.
But the first time, I really obviously didn't know what I was doing, and my memoir proposal was much less organized than even when you guys saw it. And I actually had read The Glass Castle, which was also a Barnard. Jeanette Walls was a Barnard woman also. And so just out of sheer ignorance, I figured out who her agent was at the time. It was William Morris. And I sent her the proposal, and she said, it's not for me, but I'm passing it along to one of my colleagues. And so she gave it to a guy named Mel Berger there at William Morris. And I flew from California to New York to meet with him. And another agent that I can't even remember at another agency. And he was wonderful. He loved the writing. But he didn't sign me. He never signed me. He just said he would represent that book, which I don't know if that's even common or if it was then, but it's not now.
No.
I don't know what, I don't know. Again, I was so ignorant that I didn't know. I was just like, yay. And so he did, he mailed it around to pretty much all the big publishers, and they all came back with various versions of that. We like the writing, or else it was too graphic. But that it was a misery memoir, and I was an unproven writer, and it wasn't finished. And nobody wanted to take a chance on it, which really secretly thrilled me because I wasn't ready yet. And
that's fair.
So he said, take it back and make it into something like Under the Banner of Heaven, which had just come out then as a book. And so, I loved the book, but I tried that and half-assed tried it. And I didn't want to focus on the Adventist church. I got all the books that we'd had as a kid, and I started reading them again, and it literally made me physically ill. I was struggling with raising little kids at the time, and I had just initiated this relationship with this victim, and that was super intense. And a lot of the information that I was being given was just mind-blowing, and that I wasn't sure what to do with yet. And so I just folded. I just frickin' folded, and I never contacted Berger again. And I don't even know if he's still in business. I did not contact him again after this. I just thought, I'm going to start fresh. And and like I said, I kind of tricked myself by entering the Book Pipeline contest anyway. I didn't really think I was
so good. That's why I love nonfiction.
So if I can jump in here, so like after taking all that time away from it, what was the thing that made you kind of dust it off and like, all right, I might as well submit it to this contest? What was the driving factor in that?
I think honestly, entering therapy and realizing how unresolved everything was, and that I had been playing out the same ridiculous, realizing that church upbringing and that family environment had made me so susceptible to narcissists, for instance. And I had played out all these horribly damaging relationships with narcissists. And, the sexual piece was still just like all over the map. And what was I getting out of this? And just realizing how much I was still stuck in as a reactionary, bratty teenager who felt like I had no control in life. And because I hadn't, and I never outgrew it. So, I starting to put all those pieces together, I thought I need to go back and revisit every single thing here. And part of that was pulling out the memoir parts that I had read, and also pulling out all the information that I had gotten, because I had also cut off contact for a while with that victim because I couldn't. And pulling that out, reinitiating contact with her, and then the ball just started rolling. You guys hooked me up with Danny, and with a couple of agent interviews, right? And I just clicked with her immediately. She's just a wonderful person in general, but she really understood the material. I felt like it just was a good fit, and it has been. I'm forever emailing her and apologizing and saying, because as an essay writer, how long it's going to take you to finish something. When I signed with her in whatever that was, December or January, I was like, I will be done with a first draft by early spring. And then, every month I write to her and I'm like, I'm not done. And I'm still struggling. And she's so patient and so wonderful with it, because obviously she has more experience with this than I do, probably.
She's like, oh, you sweet summer child, early spring.
Like, aren't you innocent? But, it really funny. Has struck me that this is obviously not essay writing. This is so emotional and so dense. I just can only go slow. And so it's really messed with my whole writing efficiency idea.
Sure.
It's essay writing. I can vouch for this. Essay or article or academic writing is a different muscle than novel writing, especially nonfiction. It's just Ugh. And then we're raised with like, writing is writing, guys. Just plan your essay, revise it, and then hand it in for a stupid grade because we hate you.
Right.
That's a different rant I could go on about. I have a question for you, Peter. How did you know that Melissa and Danny would probably be endgame?
Well, I mean, I didn't know right off the bat. I mean, I sent out Melissa to, I want to say like what, 15 to 20?
I think so, yeah. 14 or
oh, wow.
Nice. Yeah, it was mostly agents, but I think I also sent it to a couple of houses. Of the two that got back, it was Danny and one other agent. Danny seemed like she'll be someone that's invested in this more. That was kind of the initial spark. But then once Melissa told me about the conversation that she had with her, it really was obvious to me. I was like, all right, this is it. This is gonna work.
When did you know she was the one, if you would?
Oh, she was the one. Our email exchanges were pretty basic, just setting up our first Zoom call. And then on our first Zoom, I don't think it was long at all. I just got a great feeling from her, which is funny. I don't really go by feelings necessarily. We did just click.
That's
and
awesome.
I liked that she has a whole background of working in publishing already. Because I feel like, in terms of on the publisher side and not just the agenting side, because she really likes to work with her authors on the editorial process.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I feel like I haven't gotten quite there yet. She did go over my chapter outline when we first signed, and she gave me great feedback on that. And then, she checks in every once in a while, says, is there anything that you want me to read but we're both kind of waiting until I have a full thing so she can see the arc and she can see the through threads and everything. And I'm really looking forward to that process with her because I think I need it. I think everyone writing memoir needs someone with a fairly strong editorial eye. And obviously you hope that your publisher will have that too. But I was telling her just the other day, like, Danny, at some point, I think I'm just going to have to pull the plug on myself and say, it's done. And then you're going to have to just say, okay, here's where you need to go back and fill in because otherwise I'm just going to be over here just like,
The first thing they need is a dartboard. That's all they need at first, just something to respond to. My writing buddies have talked me into that too. Like, you just have to let it go at some point. And it's okay if there's feedback to unpack one section a little bit more or pull back on this snarky humor. And
exactly. And then of course there's that whole legal part about memoir, which I'm really interested to find out. Like, what about what happens when you're writing about real people? Like, I don't.
That was something that struck me, and I was reading it initially. It's like, how are you going to navigate that? But I guess we will cross that bridge when you come to it.
Exactly. I don't know.
That's how I write fiction. I just change people's names and add some zombie unicorns.
One of my writing teachers at one point said, you can say whatever you want about people as long as you describe them as really attractive, they won't care. And I was like, wow,
probably true. Yeah,
probably true.
How deep into the manuscript are you at this point?
Oh yeah, so I've kind of settled into I don't work well with structure and rules anymore.
Okay.
As you can probably tell. And so I started with a chapter outline, and I'm pretty far off the chapter outline at this point. Cool. But I generally just I make a Word document of a chapter by chapter basis, and I just work on that chapter, and then I'm throwing it all into a main document. So my main document that is fairly solid, I just hit 40,000 words this weekend. Yay. And then I've got all these other chapters that are out in other disarrayed form that I'm working on piecemeal here and there whenever, it's strange because I already know the plot, obviously, right? Because it's my life.
Right.
So I don't have to work in order at all. And so sometimes one piece just gets too heavy and I'm just like, I cannot face this today. So I'll work on something else. And I would imagine I have about 55,000 words in, in some sort of shape.
Yeah.
And
you're getting there, you're almost there. Nice.
Yeah. And notes for more. So it's just a matter of plugging away.
Right. Just putting the button chairs hour. Wow.
And
exactly.
You say that you're not structured and disciplined, which I kind of find hard to believe given your athletic background. I mean, you're a former competitive gymnast. You run marathons and half marathons. You have a black belt in karate. I mean, like, how can you possibly say that you're not disciplined? Because it takes a lot of discipline to do that. And B, do you think that athletic background has helped shape your writing process?
I thought that, again, was such a great question because I've never correlated the two. I would say I'm obsessively disciplined and goal-focused and ambitious, but not according to other people's, not according to plans and rules, So like writing an essay, I refuse to outline. I will not outline because I just won't. And but I'll get it done on time. But the athletic piece, that's really interesting. But of course, so much of it, as you were saying, so much of it correlates. Just the discipline of it in general, in terms of running and going to the gym, like lifting weights. I had to admit to myself like 20 years ago that I'm not very good at getting myself out the door. And instead of beating myself up for it all the time, I just decided that's not my strength, but this is something I want to achieve and it makes me feel good. So I'm going to just make it a group activity. I'm going to sign up with a running group. I'm going to meet a friend at the gym. And, so I often do that with writing, like particularly scripts. I will sign up for a class, and sometimes I'm really looking for the feedback and the teaching. And sometimes I'm just looking for the accountability, like show up, Melissa, and turn in your freaking 10 pages because otherwise you're not going to do it this week.
Yeah.
Right. And that definitely comes through on the athletic thing, like just show up and repetition, just doing like you said, butt in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing stuff like running, obviously you know that you're not going to run an ultra without a lot of butt in the chair hours, so to speak, on your feet. And but somehow all of us writers think that, I don't know, somehow it's just going to happen.
Sit down and magically pour out a book.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think the last thing that it really made me think of is when you're doing physical stuff, every attempt is a good attempt. Like you never come back from a run and say, oh, that was shit. I shouldn't have done that. You did your run. You did your run. Maybe it wasn't so fast. Maybe it wasn't so whatever, but it's a run in the bank.
You did it.
But how many times do we beat ourselves up with writing? Like, that was crap. I shouldn't have. And, and then you don't write for 2 days because you just think it was. And
because you depressed spiral. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So it is simply the repetition and the showing up and the practice. Tiger Woods still practices every day. Ballet dancers, prima donnas take class 4 hours a day before they perform every night.
Really?
Right. You gotta write.
How did you decide what to focus on and how much of the slice of life?
I think we all, if we're being honest anyway, we realize what's interesting maybe about our lives and what's not.
Okay.
Maybe. But also, I kind of decided, once I decided that entry point was going to be sex, then I kind of built off of that in terms of, and that's kind of how I've kind of deconstructed the damage in my life also is focusing from that part inward or outward or whatever, blowing it all up.
Nice.
And I started writing those chapters, those entry chapters that you read, the prologue. And and then I guess my theme just sort of developed it's changed a lot over time in terms of what I thought was the core of it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Not recently, but since when I look back, 20 years ago to now, obviously it's changed a lot. I think in recent writing, it's pretty fixed. Danny's going to listen to this and go, it better be.
Oh my God, that's good. In addition to the Glory Hole, do you have any other works in progress?
Well, okay. So here's my big shout out for Book Pipeline, because obviously my book is still a work in progress. And you guys, I have never heard of a contest that will consider, proposals and partially finished stuff. And I just think that is the freaking coolest thing ever, because it is so motivating to writers to get a kudo along the way. I would never have finished that. I would never have pursued this if I hadn't entered Book Pipeline and gotten the ball rolling. And a lot of people need that kick halfway through. They can't just keep writing until the end. And so, yay, Book Pipeline. So, of course, the Glory Hole is still a work in progress. The main one. I do have a screenplay that Peter wrote and gave me read.
What?
And,
I wrote it. I read it. Yes, I read it.
Sorry.
Thank you for the feedback, because I did incorporate all of that, and it has a producer now attached to it.
Great.
So that's exciting.
Oh, congratulations.
Cool.
That's amazing.
And then the other thing that kind of fell out of the sky, which came directly from the Glory Hole, is that a TV producer reached out to me. She had read the Huffington Post article about threesomes at brothels, and she went to my Glory Hole Instagram page, and she said she fell down the glory hole.
Nice.
And she reached out to me and said, have you ever thought of making any of this into a TV show? And at first, of course, my first reaction was, who the hell is this cable TV person from BFE? Whatever, go away. And then I looked her up, and she's actually very legit and has a lot of major, TV reality shows. And so I wrote back to her then, and I said, well, not really. I really need to focus on the book, and I need to finish it. And she was just so neat. She was just like, I'm so fascinated by all of this, and I don't even know what I'm proposing, but I just wanted to reach out. And so I ended up going down to LA and meeting with her, and just loved her. I like her. And again, she got the material. Like, she was like, this could be so easily sensationalized. We haven't gotten anywhere major with that. There's something to be said for some sort of an expose on people who escape purity culture and how they deal with the sexual trauma of that.
2 final questions. The first one is along, there's no preamble. I don't know why I said that. Is there anything that Peter and I didn't ask yet that you wanted to talk about?
No, you guys had such good questions that really, the past couple of days, I've really been thinking about them, which has been so
cool.
Fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, I guess we really did. Yeah, Peter's questions are like Wall Street Journal questions, like big, hard hitting. And here's my question, my contribution to today's interview. Melissa, Melly Mel.
This is
Melly
where
Mellerson.
Yes.
This is where the Pulitzers are won in this question.
This is it.
Yeah.
Drum roll, please.
Here we go.
Do you snack while you write?
I love this. It's more about the procuring of the snacks, because that takes more time.
Sure.
So it's all about the pacing to the fridge, the going to the kitchen, the looking, the shaking, because that can just waste so much time. Yeah. So it's all about the idea of snacking, really, that is so delightful that it can just help procrastination endlessly.
This is one of my favorite answers so far. Procrastinacking.
So literally, I do though. I will write for 15 minutes and go look at the fridge again. And then, and then write for another 10 and go look at the snack cabinet. But if I do, and mostly I'm a drinker, not alcohol much anymore, but coffee, tea, like I have a million different sodas. Like right now I'm drinking my Spindrift or whatever, my little flavored seltzer stuff.
Fancy.
So that's the go-to generally after I've stared at the fridge so many times that my electric bill has gone up. And then I will do cheese. I love cheese. Yeah. Every once in a while, if I can get my hands on cake, which I cut most of the cake away, but just a thin part of the cake with a big chunk of frosting. And you guys don't have Safeway on the East Coast, but Safeway has the best.
We do.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, we do.
They're like standard birthday cakes or whatever in their cake thing. Oh. That frosting is like crack. I don't know what's in it. It's terrible for you. I'm sure it's all hydrogenated like dead animal, whatever. I don't know, but oh my
yum,
gosh.
yum.
It's divine. So there you go.
That's probably the best answer we've gotten.
I think
to that question. Yeah.
No, because she's been honest. You see what happened here, Peter? She was honest about using snacking as procrastination technique. That's brilliant and accurate because that's all.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because I'm really hungry.
Accurate. And finally someone agrees with me. So
and I don't think I've ever admitted that to myself, but procrastinacking is a thing. So that'll be in the show notes, everybody. I'll start a podcast about that.
Hashtag
procrastinacking.
Hey, Melissa, how can our listeners reach you, find you, connect with you?
I am nominally on Facebook. I check it about once every 5 years.
Sounds right.
So I wouldn't recommend that. I'm on Instagram. I'm there just as myself, my name. And then I also have a Glory Hole page.
Okay.
And I'm sometimes on Twitter.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. Same thing. I have a Glory Hole and just my name.
I see you every now and again. We'll like my tweets. Melissa, great. There you are.
There you go.
Guys, Melissa's here. Get the frosting.
Frosting. I haven't had a good piece of cake in a long time. The problem is I get canker sores when I eat
for God's sake, Peter.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. If I have,
has that been since you were a kid? That could be scarring.
Since I was little. Yeah.
My mom told me that canker sores happen when you haven't pooped in a while.
And on that note, Melissa, thanks for joining us.
Bye, Melissa. We're sorry.
Thank you, you guys. This was awesome. This made my day.
Oh, same here. It really was fantastic. And congratulations again. And looking forward to reading all of your things.
Yes.
Thank you. As soon as I have anything that's put together, I will be sending it to you guys for first eyes.
Yes.
Yay.
And that's it for episode 3 of season 2.
We did it.
Your voice cracked there. I remember meeting her at the mixer with all the winners and finalists. And it's still so energizing to be around her.
She's a wonderful person and personality. I'm very, very confident she's going to go very, very far in her career.
Yeah.
Hey, Erica, can you talk about the next guest we're going to have?
Yes, please. It is my absolute honor to tell you guys that up next in episode 4, we have writer Gerard Rouge on deck. They are a phenomenal writer, and we cannot wait to talk to them about all their works. And I have a copy of their poetry anthology here, My Queer Diary. I got it on Amazon, and it's on sale right now. And I like poetry on a good day. This is like tickling me, like feeding my soul a bit. And I just, it reads an autobiography of my emotions, traumas, celebrations, and overall life in the form of prose, poetry, and short stories. It's good stuff.
And if you have any questions, rants, or raves about writing, or you want to learn more about us or Pipeline, please visit pipelineartists.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at the podcast title, on Instagram and Facebook at This Podcast Needs a Title. And you can follow me at The Davis Girl. And you can follow Peter and Gatorade at PME Writer.
Or don't follow us.
You have to follow me. You don't have to follow Peter.
Well, I mean, follow me if you want to see me drink Gatorade shirtless on my Twitter.
Oh, for God's sake.
I don't know.
La 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 la.